to access Humboldt and make it available?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
And Jason, I think Judy just came on.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm here.
all right. Let's see.
Mandy.
Everything there?
Hopefully what you just said will get recorded by some other, you'll say it again, or the lieutenant will say it.
Yes, and they will reiterate. So we have Lieutenant Miller tonight, and we also have Lieutenant Sam Williams, who heads up the Major Crimes Division. So they will speak a little bit later. Item 11. So. Is there any other public comment?
I had a request from someone to relay this. They were wondering if we could add any clarity about the location of the latest incident. I think temporarily they might want to avoid the area. I wasn't able to find anything that really pinpointed a site for them.
Okay. Do we want to let that come up during the that agenda item?
That's fine. Yeah, no problem.
All right. I don't see any more hands. So I'm going to move on from public comment to ask to approve the minutes from the September meeting. So I'll need a motion to approve the minutes if everybody's okay with that. They are how they stand. I didn't see
I will
anything.
make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay,
I'll
Stephanie motioned, and is that Judy that second?
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. Item number 5, the observe and report community surveillance program status and reports. So as far as observe and report, how's the walking been going?
We've been continuing to walk Tuesdays and Thursdays mornings, starting at 6 a.m. Seen definitely a decrease in the amount of people out around that time, as it's not lighter until later in the morning, and it's gotten colder. Still not a great participation level at this point, but we'll keep trying and publicizing it and hoping that people will decide to join.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we could try to add a couple different times, maybe an evening one or a daytime one.
Yep.
All right. Would somebody be interested in trying to make another post or invite people to maybe different times? Is there anybody out there that walks during those times? I live kind of far away, but I can try to do like an evening walk occasionally.
If you want to give me days and times that would work for you, I can put those on there, and we can combine them into one post.
Okay.
I'm locked into mornings just based on work and other commitments. And I'll continue to do that as long as there's at least another person who wants to go. And if you want to add a different day or time, I can post those, and we can give people an option on the same post.
Okay. Was there any comment on observe and report? Walking groups, anybody want to speak on that? All right, I will move to community surveillance program. So within the last few weeks, we have put up, I believe, 12 camera systems. A couple of them are not fully operational yet. I'm working on trying to get some, because they were hardwired systems that I'm trying to wire myself on my free time. So I needed an extension ladder to get to the second story of one of the buildings. And then we were having a Wi-Fi issue with another one that we're probably going to work out tomorrow. But we have a lot of the city covered, and they're all going to be registered with the sheriff's department. So that's great. We have a lot of high resolution cameras out there that see a lot. So I'm not sure if anybody had any questions on that. We do still have a couple cameras left, don't we, Mandy? Just
We
the
do.
spotlight type.
We do. We have
So-
some spotlight, kind of like the rings style. And then we have one blink system, but I think it's a really worthwhile program. And one of the initiatives I think we can talk about when we discuss the sheriff contract is increasing this program. I think it has a lot of value. And now that we're starting to pick up a little bit more interest from people, I think we should continue to try and work with specific locations to get more cameras. And I'm not as up to speed technology wise on systems that don't have access to Wi-Fi or, but I know you can just record to a card. And what Dennis was talking about with these kind of remote location cameras, I mean, that could be something that we look into, is trying to highlight, I mean, maybe it becomes more of like, like the sun cam style for the river. And we figure out if there's a way to get a camera system up on a pole. I don't know what the legalities are around that or what the technology needs are, but it could be something that we look into, because that seems like a good idea and a good location to have something. And you could also, kind of promote it as a sun cam, check it out, see what the river looks like in Blue Lake. So maybe that's a way to also get more eyes on it at different times.
Okay. I'm willing to do a little bit of research on that too. Probably have to speak with, does PG&E own that pole there?
Yeah, those are PG&E owned poles.
So I'll see what the legality is on maybe attaching something or.
Right, and it's, yeah, I would have to, I'm trying to think back in my PG&E installation brain what you can and can't put on poles, but I'm sure we could work with them. And I believe possible that is also could be city property right around in there.
When we had started looking into this, we also made a call down to Fortuna and asked them about their system down there. They worked with an agency in Eureka to set that up, and they have a CCTV type for some of their cameras. So maybe we could reach out back to them and see, if they can answer any more specific questions for us.
Right. I mean, cameras are just they're getting better and they're getting easier. And now with memory cards that can hold a ton of information. I mean, the problem is you have to have them high enough so people can't just get them.
Yeah.
And then you have to be able to access them to be able to take the card and, remove it and download stuff. And if you don't have Wi-Fi. So, there's some things that you have to kind of figure out, and I don't really know. Usually PG&E doesn't want you climbing their poles, and that's kind of a big no-no, but maybe there's something we could do with the fire department or something. I don't know, like, some kind of access point. Or
Could
maybe
we put up a city-owned pole there?
it's possible. Yeah, I think we just have to look into it a little bit more.
Okay.
I'll start looking into that this week. So are we talking about expanding the camera program possibly? Is there more money in the grant available for that? No, we've hit most of the businesses that are interested, and I know there's still a few community members that were interested. We still have a list of them, but
Sorry, if you can hear a vacuum cleaner in the background, I'm sorry. I thought they were done in the office, but apparently not. Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is the proposed contract with the sheriff. It's substantially less than what we had budgeted for this year. And so I think there's an opportunity to talk about additional ways to make creative inroads into public safety. And I think an increase and investment in cameras is a great way to do that. And we could possibly have a little bit more funding to work with it could be a little bit more robust than, just the small program that we started out with. So that would be something that the Public Safety Commission can talk about tonight and maybe make a recommendation that I can take back to council, or we could do a little bit more work to bring forward some options. But I definitely think it's worthwhile. I think cameras are a minimal investment that has a really big benefit. So it would be something that I would recommend to council and advocate for.
Okay.
All right. I'm just looking for hands up. Okay, don't see any hands up from the public. We'll move on to, well, see, I don't have Red Cross here tonight. Andrew was not available. So I'm gonna try for next week on that, or next meeting, I apologize. So we'll move on to item 7, the local road safety plan presentation and discussion.
Yes, I just wanted to provide an update to the commission on how things are going with this project. This is the program that the city received funding for through Caltrans, and this is kind of a less cumbersome program than some of the other Caltrans funding sources that we apply for. This is funding that allows us to apply for various funding allocations, including HSIP, which is a kind of a smaller funding source that allows us to do smaller projects like small guardrail projects and safety installations. But it's a really important opportunity for us to gain really critical data that can be used across a lot of different funding programs. So basically what we're looking at is what are areas of concern for the community. And we've been going through this a bit with the truck route redesign, but this is a community-wide project. It's not just focused on the truck route. And it's basically an opportunity for us as a community to say where our areas of concern are. And then the second phase of the project will be looking at reasonable and effective solutions that could be implemented quickly and make kind of a larger dent in some of our safety concerns. Basically, what they'll do is they take your data and they match it up with effective solutions. You kind of get this little smorgasbord of options, which could be roundabouts, speed tables, traffic lights, stop signs, enhanced crosswalks, narrowing the roadway. So you kind of get these options that are replicable across areas, because a lot of traffic issues are kind of they're kind of boxed in. They're not so dramatic that you can't replicate some of these models without having to go through this huge study and planning and engineering and things that cost lots of money and lots of time. So it's trying to find effective and affordable solutions that can be implemented more efficiently and quickly to make kind of a bigger impact. The problem we have in Blue Lake is that we don't have a lot of crash data, and that's good and bad, because obviously we don't want a lot of crashes. But then it's also hard to substantiate your claim that you have a problem when you can't, point to specific data. So what this program allows you to do is to actually take kind of an oral history of incidents and use that as to substantiate your claims of concern. So other agencies are using a mechanism called Street Story, where you can go in and you can click on a map and you can say, at one time I was crossing the street here and almost got hit by a car because the cars were going too fast. And so we're doing kind of a similar process through this. We've had a survey out. We've been reaching out to people in specific user groups. We just had a meeting last week with the school, with Green Diamond, with North Fork Lumber, with some of the other trucking companies. We had the school bus driver on, the supervisors were on. trying to kind of target user groups. The school especially is really critical because they do have a lot of different user group interactions. They have kids trying to get to school. They have parents trying to drop kids off at school. They have parents leaving school. They have intersections of truck traffic and commuter traffic all kind of happening at once in one area. So their data is really critical. So we're a little bit light on data. We're going to be doing some more targeted outreach, and we may at some point come to the commission. We don't have a lot of time to do this. We'd like to probably wrap up kind of the community outreach and scoping by January or February. We may be doing some town square, meet and greets, like come and, look at a map, tell us where you've had issues. And this doesn't mean that it has to be like, I got hit by a car. It could be a near miss. It could be a fender bender. It could be, something of concern that you have, visibility, sight distance. Maybe you've seen something, a near miss. But any data that we collect helps to substantiate our claim, and which then helps to substantiate our requests for funding and improvements. So as we move forward with the process and we start looking at the lack of data in areas where we know there are specific concerns, we're going to be doing a little bit more targeted outreach. And we may want to use the Public Safety Commission to kind of help with that. Maybe we'll do some tabling. We did have representatives from the Annie and Mary Rail Trail, also from the biking community, just trying to really drill down on data because our data is a little bit light. So I just want to let you guys know that that process is ongoing. I think they did reactivate the surveys, so we'll see if we can get those back up and do kind of a second round of, hey, community, we really need you. We'll be working with the school to do some real targeted outreach through the parent groups, things that we can send home. We may try and do some outreach maybe at the Halloween carnival and starting to kind of hit some of the specific events where we kind of have a captured audience. So that's the status of that. It kind of ties into the truck route. I think, did anyone have any questions on the LRSP process or where we're at or what it's about?
How long is the survey going to be reopened for?
We probably will open it maybe for another few weeks or so. I mean, people can give data, they can give information as long as they need to, but we're trying to get people to like, hey, this is really important and we only have a short amount of time, like, make sure you take this. And I myself haven't even turned in all of my stuff, I mean, it's so we're trying to also find out ways, like I said, I may just go set up a table at the town square as people are leaving the post office, ask them to come over, like, hey, on this map of the city, have you had, oh yeah, one time on B Street, I was like crossing there and, someone came flying through the intersection. Great, let's like document that. That's a near miss, So
Okay.
Just trying to extrapolate that a bit from the community and the the different user groups, horse groups, bike groups, the stroller pushers, kids are a big one. Kids have near misses and we need to get their information as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, did you kind of tie that into the truck route?
Yeah,
design?
so I wanted to make sure I didn't talk over the top of anyone's questions there. So for the truck route, we're pretty excited. We just got recommended at the technical advisory committee level for a $1.6 million allocation to address Greenwood Road. And that's a direct result of the work we've been doing on the truck route survey and design process. So that's really exciting. That's a big allocation. I think there's like $5 million out there and we got recommended for 1.6 million of it. It can make a huge impact to the safety and kind of scenic nature of Greenwood. So I'm really excited about that. It's great that Blue Lake has risen up to the level that we're being recognized as, you know, kind of a regional destination for people to come out here and recreate. And so the other TAC members, you know, kind of gave up their own allocations to support Blue Lake's allocation. They also recognized the need to have, you know, a safe area in front of the school. So that money will, what we're looking at right now is undergrounding the utilities, widening the sidewalks, putting in the speed tables, resurfacing, new crosswalks, putting the crosswalks in safer areas that are more visible, slowing down the traffic through the different, they have the chicanes, which are kind of like the little bulb outs. Maybe it's some nice planting areas. It could be, you know, a treescape, a landscape feature that also shrinks, it kind of makes you think that the roadway has is smaller than it is, so you kind of slow down. But it's really a great start to, you know, redoing our whole truck route and making the improvements that we really need. So that money will go a long way. So it's a big allocation. We're still in the design and environmental process, but if this money gets approved, which most likely it will get approved at the larger CTC level, we can go from design and engineering and environmental into construction. So we're really excited about that. We just got that word last week or late last week. So I wanted to be able to share that with you guys, that the process that we're going through, it has really solid, tangible results. And the community did a great job in answering surveys and participating in the process and advocating for these improvements. And we're now going to be able to see the physical results of that coming down the pike. So I'm pretty excited to be able to share that.
That's really good news.
Good.
I want to just be clear for these minutes that when you say the money is recommended, the 1.6 million, we're still waiting to.
Right. So the process is a little bit complicated. You know, the county gets an allocation comes in, it comes into HCOG, which is the Humboldt County Association of Governments, and that's who manages the regional transportation allocation. And we all have representatives on the HCOG. So most communities have their mayors as their representatives. So Mayor Jones is our representative on the HCOG. But underneath the COG is the TAC, which is the Technical Advisory Committee. And we also all have representatives on that. And that's more of your, so like our TAC representative is our city engineer, because it really is more of the technical group that, you know, understands the engineering side, the planning side, and the information side of these types of projects, because transportation is very complicated. There's various levels and layers of funding, various layers and levels of environmental and planning processes, whether it's state funding or federal funding. It's definitely like kind of like a whole language of its own. So the TAC is what really analyzes the region's needs. They look at the dollars, they look at the funding, they look at the allocations, and they've done a really good job over the years of being really respectful of each other and being willing to share resources across the board. So we don't get left out as a smaller city. They've been very good at, you know, like I said, they just recommended that Blue Lake get a very big share of that pot. And that required like Humboldt County to say, hey, we're willing to take less money, even though we have a really big need ourselves. We recognize that Blue Lake also has this need. And so we're willing to lessen our share and, you know, and support the city's application. So once it goes from the TAC, it goes up to the CTC and the COG, and it goes through that process. So the CTC is kind of the larger state organization. So I believe the COG will send it up to the CTC for recommendation, and there shouldn't be any reason why the CTC wouldn't approve it. So getting through the TAC and having that support across the board from everyone, and that allocation of resources is a pretty solid step forward. So we feel pretty confident that we're on our way to receiving that funding in the future.
Is there any public comment for the truck route? Design an update? Okay, not seeing any hands. We'll move on to the town hall meeting with Sheriff Hansel and the District Attorney Fleming. I guess you want to do a little overview on that, Mandy? We're talking about November, a Zoom meeting.
Actually,
And-
we're trying to get it for October. The sheriff has confirmed he's available on the 23rd, waiting for the DA's office to confirm as well.
Yeah, I believe Stephanie's been doing most of the outreach on this.
Do we
Okay.
want to go ahead with the sheriff only on the 23rd if the DA cannot commit to that date?
I think it's really important to hear from both sides, because I think it's two sides of the coin. You have law enforcement, and then you have prosecution. And I think for me, I feel like there's a breakdown between the two.
Mhm.
And I'm really curious, and I think the community needs to be able to hear why, if a deputy is arresting someone for something, why is the prosecution not happening? And I know that there are new laws on the books and things, and there's COVID, but I think we need to hear both sides of that issue, and not that they're competing sides. I know the DA's office and the sheriff's office work really closely together, but I think we really need to see both sides of the issue to have a better understanding of really what's going on in the community, and why aren't we seeing a reduction or a prosecution or incarceration of some of these individuals who seem to be continually perpetrating crimes against the community. So I think it's pretty critical, and I think it would be important to hear both of them be able to respond to that in the same setting. Not that I'm trying to like I said, no, not pitting anyone against each other, but I think it's a very I think the conversation needs to happen with both representatives in the room.
Okay.
That's just my opinion, though. I mean, this is your annual meeting, but that's kind of my thought process.
No, I think that's great perspective. And we'll try to get it for the 23rd. I think it's good for sooner rather than later, but still to
Was
be
there
determined on the date.
Was there a time you were thinking of, or?
No, we didn't get that far yet. I still need the date confirmation. It's a Saturday, so we'll have some
I'm not
flexibility.
gonna be available on the 23rd till like late evening, but
Okay.
I'm already locked into a class that's already been paid for, so.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a bad idea if you wanted to push it out a bit too.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. More to follow on the timing then.
It would
Okay,
give
so
us more of an opportunity to advertise and
Yeah.
get the community involved.
I
And we
definitely
also
don't want
wanted
to go past the holidays. I want to get this.
Yeah.
Get
We
this
also
done.
want to survey the community also, right, to have questions ahead of time.
Yep.
Okay. So the idea of the town hall meeting was to just give the community a chance to address their concerns to the sheriff and the district attorney? Was that the gist of it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an aspect of it. I think it's also just an opportunity to get a better feel for the status of law enforcement in the community. I think it'd be good for the citizens to ask the sheriff about, maybe some creative solutions that our community could be looking at. What are they seeing as opportunities for us, as we look at this kind of modification of our law enforcement services? What are some things that the community could be doing that are more proactive? And maybe the sheriff has some ideas on things that we could do or implement or take on. I don't think it doesn't need to be, a negative meeting by any means. It really should be an opportunity to say, hey, we're all working on this together. You know, what do you think? You know, what are some solutions? Here's our concerns. You know, and maybe you can let us know why they aren't being addressed or why they're being addressed the way they are, and what are some things that we can do to assist. Is that advocacy? Do we need people to be advocating on certain levels? So I wouldn't take it as a, you know, just a negative, you know, type of situation. It's really an opportunity, I think, to have a bigger conversation.
Okay. All right, was there any more information on this?
Just that we'll keep working on the date, and I hear you saying later in the day is better, just generally. I think that's fine. So
Yeah, 6 to 7 o'clock probably, but for
Okay.
me personally,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
Or I'll probably be doing it from my car.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to item 10, the Humboldt County Sheriff contract update and discussion regarding our public safety strategy for the city.
Yeah, so the city has received the new contract with the Humboldt County Sheriff. We've been working under several amendments to the original contract. The contract that we received, I think, is more representative of the level of service that the city has been receiving and can expect to receive. So I was actually pleasantly surprised to see the number. I think it gives us a better foundation to work from. It is substantially less than what we had budgeted. In the past, we were paying over $300,000. This contract is for about $122,000. But I think it's, like I said, I think it's more reflective of, you know, where the sheriff department is currently with staffing levels. It's more reflective of probably where the staffing levels are going in the future. And I know Lieutenant Miller has talked to us about this quite a bit. He probably can talk to this a little bit more also. So I wanted to bring this back. The council's already looked at this. We'll be bringing it back at our October meeting for recommended approval. They had just asked for me to bring a little bit more detail about the pricing structure and what it was based upon. So we'll just mostly a clarification issue. But I think the place that we're at right now is that we have an opportunity to utilize funding that's already been allocated for law enforcement, maybe in a way that's more reflective of the needs of our community. And I'm not recommending that, you know, we go out and you know, spend $150,000 on security cameras or anything, but, you know, maybe there's some creative solutions. You know, in the past, we've talked about private security, just private patrols in the community, not law enforcement based by any means, but just having, you know, a private company that just drives around the community at the hours that we need them to be doing it, and just as eyes on the street, just as much as it would be an extension of neighborhood watch or our observe and report. Other communities do use those services. I don't know if they're even available in our area. I have talked to our risk management group about it, and there are other communities that we could look at their model. I definitely think more robust installation of cameras is important, more lighting. So I don't know all the answers, and I'm sure there's a lot more that could be looked at. You know, beefing up neighborhood watch programs, maybe signage. But I think this gives us a little bit more flexibility and freedom to maybe make some recommendations to the council for alternatives to law enforcement. And like I said, I think it's it gives us a more honest foundation to continue to build our relationship with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department from.
Okay, so the new contract, does the new contract cuts the amount of deputies we're gonna have?
So what the contract does is it removes dedicated service from the contract. In the past, we were paying for 2 dedicated deputies to provide coverage for our community. And we know we weren't getting it because the sheriff didn't have the bodies to fill those positions. And as much as they tried, you know, a lot of times our deputies would be called off to other areas. You know, they would have staffing shortages in some of the more population intense areas that those deputies had to patrol, or they would get pulled off for calls. So there was a lot of time where we didn't have that dedicated service anyways. So basically what this does is it puts us as if we were any other community in the county. It puts us in their system for patrols. And I've already been seeing more randomized patrols by the sheriff. So, you know, they might be coming through as they're going up to Willow Creek. They'll be coming through as they're going out West End Road or doing their checks down the Hatchery Road, or, you know, they might just, you know, the Glendale to Blue Lake loops. So I don't necessarily feel that it's really a reduction in coverage. I think it'll be a more randomized coverage, which is also helpful. But it does remove the dedicated deputies from the contract. And Kevin or Lieutenant Miller probably can talk a little bit more about what that coverage will look like. But, you know, the sheriff has been telling us for years that they, you know, they're down deputies, that it's a big number that, you know, of vacancies. So it's, you know, you're paying for something that there's just not enough bodies to fill. So.
Can I chime in here now, Mandy?
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, great. I mean, good evening, everybody. So first of all, what Mandy said is she's hit the nail right on the head. The new contract is much more representative of the services that we can provide to the city right now. She's 100% correct. As much as we've tried to staff those positions and follow the contract, we simply haven't been able to. We're pushing almost 30 deputies down now. 2 weeks ago, it was 25. And now we're already pushing 30 down. So we have to be realistic what we can provide, because we don't want to promise something that obviously we can't give you. So we have started random patrols. How those were picked was we went and kind of mined the data out of our statistics and took a look at like what hours, what trends are we seeing, what hours, what days of the week are these things occurring. And then I've taken those things and had them put into our computer system so that they pop up on all the computers in the patrol cars and say, hey, we need you to make a pass through Blue Lake if you're in the area right now. So that's probably what you're seeing quite a bit of. And then obviously there's the other activities that have been going on here lately that Lieutenant Williams and I will speak to here probably on the next agenda item. So that's why you're seeing a little more increased activity out there. But the good news is that the amount of money that we're requesting for these services is quite less. Up until a short time ago, I think we were all anticipating that it was going to be quite a bit more for both Blue Lake and Trinidad. I guess that's an important fact to throw out here too, is that this is not just targeted at Blue Lake. This is also going for our, it applies to our contract with the city of Trinidad as well. So they're absolutely in the same boat as Blue Lake is. Maybe down the road, you know, ideally we'll get more deputies and we'll be able to look at this again realistically and, you know, see if we can, you know, dedicate deputies to the area. But I've talked to this group quite a bit, and you guys have a really good base foundation on, you know, how long it takes to hire and train a deputy and get them out on the street. So anyways, so that's what I had to say about that, but I am open for questions too on this because it's an important topic. I put y'all to sleep.
Um, I was looking to see if we had any hands, but it doesn't look like it. No, that sounds great. I mean, I think it's gonna work out. We've got a lot of plans in place to do what we need to, so.
Yeah, I guess just one other thing to add to this too. When Mandy says it, you basically get all the same services as any other community out there. That's true. And what that means, just kind of digging down a little deeper into that, is that, although you may not have a deputy dedicated to that area, so if somebody calls 911 and says they need a deputy, that call will go into our call rotation like any other one would. And, we'll respond as we can to them. If it's a life safety issue, obviously we'll get there a lot quicker than if it's a cold property crime that's with no suspect. But it comes along with our investigative services, our search and rescue services, and all the other services that are, provided by the sheriff's department to any other community that we police.
Great. Well, if there's no other questions on this discussion, let's just move right on in the agency check-in and hand it over to Humboldt County Sheriff. We've got Lieutenant Sam Williams from Major Crimes and Lieutenant Miller here tonight.
Yeah, so I'm going to let Lieutenant Williams take the floor here in just a moment, but just a little background on him. He is our lieutenant. He's the same rank as I am, and he's in charge of our Major Crimes Division. So it's his investigators and detectives who are investigating these two crimes. And again, I want to reiterate what the city manager Mandy said, is that the first case has definitely been deemed a homicide and is being investigated as so. The second one, though, that is determined to be right now at this point just a suspicious death. So it has not been deemed a homicide. And I'll let Lieutenant Williams speak more to that. But that's why I invited him here tonight. I figured cut the middleman out, which is me, and let you guys talk to the man that really knows something. So without further ado, here is Lieutenant Williams. Sir.
Thanks, Lieutenant Miller. Good evening, everyone. I will just sort of piggyback a little bit on that last comment. When we use the term suspicious death, it can mean a lot of different things as far as what's suspicious about it. And sometimes those things are worked out and it's totally explained and it ends up not being suspicious at all. Other times it is worked out to where, no, it's exactly, it is suspicious and it's ruled a homicide after autopsy. It's important for me and our investigators not to make that conclusion on our own without having the proper procedures followed, which is having an autopsy and having a forensic medical doctor confirm that the cause of death. And so especially in cases where the decomposition is so significant that it things could appear a certain way and then not be that way at all once a doctor looks at the individual. So it's important just to understand why we make those distinctions, because I don't want you to think that this isn't going to be something serious. It may very well be, and we are certainly investigating it as such. As far as I know someone had mentioned earlier about the location. I don't want to give a pinpoint location, so to speak, as I will say it's in the general vicinity of the last incident, along the levee trail, and we have identified the person today. We were pretty much working hand in hand with the coroner's office today to identify the decedent, and we have done that. And as soon as we have all of his next of kin identified or notified, then we can identify this person. We are looking to have our forensic examiner come in. His schedule is quite busy, as it's sort of a ongoing issue nationwide in the profession. But he's trying to schedule us towards the end of the week, and I don't have a firm time yet, but I'm guessing Thursday or Friday will be the day for autopsy. And we are not waiting as investigators. Obviously, there's certain information that we to use the term hunch, I guess would be, we kind of act on those just to make sure we don't lose certain information. So we are working on both of these cases, sort of behind the scenes. I can tell you we're working rather feverishly on them. And on the first one, especially right now, I spoke to the sheriff, I believe it was last week or maybe the week before. And I talked to him about having just sharing some general public safety concerns that the board had. And I had a conversation with Mandy. So I was trying to follow up with the sheriff about that. And I suggested, because the Department of Justice lab is so incredibly behind, it takes months to get results for DNA and forensic, biological type of testing. And so Eureka Police Department has contracted with a company called Bodie, and they're very well respected now, sort of in that in the industry. And we reached out to them because their turnaround time is much faster. I reached out to Eureka Police Department, asked them what the probability of us using their contract to submit some evidence to the lab, and they were very helpful to us. And it is extra money that you have to pay, not like DOJ. It costs per sample that you submit. But I was able to, the sheriff was quick to grant that. He gave me the go ahead and said, whatever needs to happen, let's get it submitted through your Eureka and Bodie if we can do that. So we did do that. Last week we had sent off several of items that we wanted to get tested. So it still takes time, though. This type of stuff isn't, it doesn't work like it does on TV, where the hologram pops up and we get all our answers. So November 10th is the day that we're expected to have results posted. So, and this is just an estimated date. So it could be sooner, it could take longer, but as soon as it is, we'll at least have some answers. I don't know that it will be answers that direct us to something, but that's sort of the nature of investigations. So, but just for your edification to know that we are working on it. We are going sort of outside of the box to try and expedite some of this stuff. We are spending the money to do that. And we are looking at this second incident, and in every way, I'm sure all of the questions that you have, and I can't give you specific detail just to protect the integrity of the investigation, but likely, if you're thinking about it, we are too, and we are investigating it as such. And I will shut my mouth and let you guys ask questions if you have any.
I have a question, Lieutenant Williams, can you expand on the level of decomposition or any ideas of how long this the decedent was in the area? Are we talking weeks, months? There's a lot of questions about timelines. Everyone's trying to piece things together in their mind. And I'm just wondering about that status.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't really comment on that for a couple of different reasons. One is because it really, I'm the type, I don't like to tip my hand in investigations. And so that can divulge information that, you know, might allow someone to be like, oh, I have an alibi for that time frame, you know, when they otherwise wouldn't have if they don't know how long that person, you know, had been there. But the other reason is it wouldn't be appropriate for me to do that without a medical doctor making, our forensic pathologist making some sort of judgment on that time frame, because he's ultimately the one who has to answer, you know, for that judgment that he's made.
What about the question about public safety? Should the community be concerned at all using that trail?
Well, quite frankly, because I can't tell you that the person that's responsible has been apprehended and held accountable. Yeah, I mean, I would think I would be foolish to say that there's no worries at all. I mean, anything's possible. I tend to think, and this is, I don't want to give, you know, advice. Every person has to make their own decisions. I certainly don't want people walking around in fear, but I tend to think that these are not just random events that are happening. I don't think that, you know, there's some crazed person that's has the rest of the community that needs to walk around looking over their shoulder. That being said, I would also say use good judgment. At this point, you know, someone is responsible for at least one of these, and that person has not been apprehended yet. So use good judgment. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, situations like this are kind of frustrating for us to kind of answer that question for you. It's like we want to give out the information. We don't want to be talking, you know, incognito, you know, for lack of better terms. But we kind of have to, like the Lieutenant Williams said, just to protect the integrity of the investigation. Because if we let out too much, it definitely could do some big damage when, you know, when these investigations are handed over to the district attorney's office and they go to, you know, they go to court, at least on the first one, right? So that's a tough one, you know, and it's like I expressed earlier to everybody, it's the same thing that we've been talking about at many of these meetings in the past. It's really, the advice is no different than any other time, right? And that is to, you know, just be aware of your surroundings, you know, lock your doors. As much as we would like to think we live in the world where we can just leave everything unlocked and we're safe and sound, that's just in reality not the world that we live in right now, unfortunately. And all of us would love it to be different, but it isn't. So again, just be aware of your surroundings, lock your doors, report anything suspicious to the sheriff's office, and look out for your neighbors. If you do want to go down on the dike and walk, then, you know, don't probably do it alone. Yeah, I wouldn't do it in the evening. But again, those are all things that, you know, especially in the evening alone, that's all the advice that I'd be giving right now to this commission, regardless of these other two incidents that we're talking about, right? So, yeah, these are tough times for us because again, we want to be transparent as much as we can, but we have to protect the integrity of the investigation. So we thank all of you guys for being understanding of that because you've got questions and we understand that and we've got questions too. So, but also, even though we're waiting on forensic evidence, the other thing to point out is that our investigators, our detectives are still out there, still doing a lot of the legwork behind the scenes on this case. So just because we're waiting for forensic evidence to come back, that doesn't mean that not absolutely anything's happening on the case and we're just waiting for that to come back, because that's not true. There's so much more work that goes into these things behind the scenes. And again, if somebody's got information, just, feed it to our major crimes division, to our detectives, and we follow up on all those things. So there's a whole lot going on behind the scenes here that ultimately will hopefully, result in the person responsible for at least the first one, being held accountable.
Okay. So if anybody has any information on any crimes in town or anything related to this, can they just call the Eureka number and ask for major crimes?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that number again? That's
So, yeah, so this would be not for any crime in Blue Lake, but anything related to these two particular cases that they're investigating right now, the levy incidents. Yeah, that's what we want folks to call the Major Crimes Division. You could call them at our public number 707-445-7251 and just ask to speak with a investigator in the Major Crimes Division. For all the other stuff, again, you can call that same number and just request to speak with the deputy, and or we have our online reporting sources also.
great. All right. Was there any other questions for the sheriff? Anybody from the public? Well, great. All right. Well, thank you guys for waiting till the end here to discuss this with us.
Yeah, no problem.
Very
Anytime.
good.
Um,
Have a good night.
All right. All right. Have a good
You too.
evening. All right. Do we have Chief on from the fire department? I don't see him on. Okay. Well, there's not a lot going on as far as the fire department anyway. I mean, we've been a little busy on calls, but we'll get him on our next meeting for an update. So we'll move to item 11 or item 12, the reports from liaison and staff. Do you have anything, Summer?
She might be having some trouble connecting. I think we lost her a couple times. Oh. Summer, your connection is pretty wonky.
I have limited reception. Hear me okay?
There you go.
Oh, that's
I
better.
am. Let
That's
Mandy
better.
go ahead and chime in on it. Is that a little bit better? I was going to say I'll let you do the report, but can you hear me okay now? Okay. I really want to say a big thank you to our Sheriff's Department and to Lieutenant Miller and for working with the city and the city manager on the sheriff's contract. I really appreciate the time that you guys have spent on that. And then also for your diligence in investigating these crimes in our community, and just really appreciate all the feedback that you provide and your attendance at all of our Public Safety Commission meetings. It's very invaluable advice and participation. So a big thank you to you guys for the work that you do. And I have nothing else to report at this time.
All right, thank you.
Am I up next?
Yeah, yeah, you're up, Mandy.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't have a lot to report. I think we've talked about a lot of projects the truck route and the LRSP projects have been taking up a fair amount of time. I am excited that we have a new parks director coming on, and I believe that they will be in Humboldt County tomorrow. And hopefully Trevor will be checking into the city on Wednesday. They are driving down from Moscow, Idaho. Trevor has a lot of great experience, and I think he's going to really serve the city well, especially looking at taking our recreation economy kind of to the next level. He's been teaching for quite a while up at the University of Idaho in Moscow, Idaho. He's got a background in recreation economies, recreation tourism. He's a professional disc golfer. He loves building bike trails and parks, and is really excited to be in Blue Lake. So we're excited to have him. We've been diligently trying to find him housing. We think we have some temporary housing for him, which will allow him to at least try and see if something else pops up in the community that might better suit he and his girlfriend Ashley, who I believe just got a job. I think she already got a job. So she, I believe, is a librarian. And I don't believe she got a librarian job, but sounds like they're already well on their way to establishing themselves. So we're super excited. I think that's going to bring a lot of opportunity to the community. You know, he'll be a big part of looking at issues with safety and events, and as our recreation economy grows and our facilities continue to kind of expand, and we see more people coming out to the community, you know, it's very important that we all work together to create a safe environment. And so I think you guys will really enjoy working with him, and he'll enjoy working with all of you. So that's an exciting step. We've also recently hired an economic development planner, Emily. She'd been working in our parks program, and she's just doing an amazing job already. We're going to be doing a lot of community outreach and small business outreach, really trying to activate our downtown. She'll be doing some work with the businesses in the downtown through some funding that the city received through the American Rescue Plan. We're hoping to utilize some of that funding to do some beautification, signage, just kind of bringing the downtown back to life a bit. That's also a big part of public safety, is having, you know, spaces that are active and people are circulating, and not having these dead zones and spaces that are more prone to, you know, crimes of opportunity. So public safety, economics, recreation, they all go hand in hand, and they all work together. And I think the city's in a very good position right now, even with these recent events that seem to be a bit jarring. I think we're still on track, and we still have a very safe and effective community. So hopefully in the coming months, we'll see some increased activity. I know in October, we'll be doing the Trick or Treat the Town event again. Last year, it was incredibly successful, more so than anyone had anticipated. I think every kid from every town in Humboldt County came out to Blue Lake, and we weren't anticipating that. So we'll be planning for a larger scale event this year. It worked out really well. It was very COVID friendly and safe. We'll be spreading kids out and families out around the community. So that'll be fun to see. And then the holidays are coming, so we'll be looking at other activities that are, you know, safe for the community and for people coming out here. But we need to really start moving again into, you know, a little more activity. And the holidays are a great way to do that. We'll be looking at maybe, you know, the tree lighting stuff. We'll put a tree at the town square. Just some outdoor activities that'll kind of boost everyone's spirits and create a little bit more of a festive and fun atmosphere for the community. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and you guys are a big part of it, and you guys are doing a great job. And I think we have some opportunities this winter to really look at some creative solutions with a little bit bigger budget behind us, which is exciting. We don't normally have that, so I see good things on our horizon. And that's about all I have.
Great. Any questions? Okay, item number 13, future agenda items and announcements. I have the update on the town hall meeting. An update with Red Cross. And was there anything else that we need to put on for a future agenda item? Besides the normal, I'll give an update on what I find out on the cameras.
I would like to have on a discussion, and maybe someone from the commission would be interested in doing a little bit of research about different types of community patrols, like professional patrols. I think it's something that we should be considering, and we could potentially have some funding to put towards it. So I think it's looking at some alternative solutions for the use of our public safety dollars that could come in the form of a recommendation in the future to the council.
Okay.
I'll take that on and do some research. I kind of started a little bit of that. I didn't have anything worthwhile a presentation today, but I'll be happy to help with that.
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right. I mean, I am gonna put on the work plan also for a future agenda item. I did present the work plan to the city council and they approved us moving forward with the rest of the stuff we haven't worked on already. And so we'll start a discussion on the work plan too and what we need to work on next on it. So any other agenda items? Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I can
Anybody
second
else?
that motion.
All right, Stephanie seconds.
I couldn't unmute.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. The meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Have a
night.
good night.
All right.